We didn't put them in there.
No, they, well, maybe,
I'm pretty sure I put them in cover.
okay,
This should have been or. Or this.
I did not look there.
Okay, I'm calling the Monday, March 30th, 2026 special session of council to order at 6 PM. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Moran,
Here.
Mr. Dunman,
Here.
Ms. Gersh, Mrs. Grayorah,
Here.
Mr. Kirkowski.
Here.
Okay. We have a motion to enter executive session for discussion of personnel issues to consider appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public official.
So move.
Second.
Move in a second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Moran.
Yes.
Mr. Dunman,
Yes.
Ms. Gersh,
Yeah.
Mrs. Grayorah.
Yes.
Mr. Kirkowski.
Yes.
Okay, we are in executive session. We're going to move to the large conference room and resume the council meeting and the budget discussion following that.
Forgot my water. So far. I think it's the other 4 o'clock. I'm gonna grab. Can I go grab a water in there?
So check those cabinets too.
That's on, it's actually unlocked. Okay, can I have a motion to resume regular session?
So move.
Second.
Moving to second, clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Moran,
Yes.
Mr. Dunman,
Yes.
Ms. Gersh.
Yes.
Mrs. Briora,
Yes.
Mr. Kukowski.
Yes.
Regular session resumed at 6:25. A motion for the approval of the March 9th, 2026 special session of council meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to purchases and approvals. Can I have a motion for the approval of the appointment of Jeff Riggs to the full-time firefighter paramedic for Newburgh Heights Fire Department at a starting salary of $56,000?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for the approval of the appointment of Anthony Brack to full-time firefighter paramedic for Newburgh Heights Fire Department at a starting salary of $53,000?
So moved.
Second.
Moving to second, and all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you.
I have a quick question, gentlemen. Are either one of you left-handed? Okay, good.
That's why we're not making them department heads.
Right. In order to be a department head in this town, you have to be left-handed.
Start working on practicing your other hand.
Congrats, gentlemen. You too.
Okay, can I have the motion for the approval of the appointment of Brian Langjar to part-time police officer for the Newburgh Heights Police Department?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
I have a question.
Yes,
Is he a photo enforcement
Yes.
officer or part-time police?
we
officer?
always appoint as a part-time police officer in case there's an emergency and he has to be deployed for something else,
Uh-huh.
but that is what his function will be. Was there a movement, maiden motion in the second?
Yes.
Everybody voted yes?
We
Any,
about-
all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any objections? No. Motion carries.
Linda, in addition, when they're doing any kind of training or they have to do range work or anything like that, they get their regular rate of about $25 instead of the photo enforcement rate. That's why Chief Majoy always asks for them to be part-time officers. And then they have a dual appointment to photo enforcement. So when they do training, they're only getting their regular rate and not the photo rate.
Okay, but we don't, we hire them as photo enforcement officers, which is a
No,
different
we
category.
hire them as
part-time
part-time,
officer,
we
correct?
hire them as part-time officers.
Right.
It's-
Whose detail is photo enforcement. Does
Okay,
that make sense?
but we don't follow the same guidelines when we hire officers as we do photo enforcement officers. Is that correct?
When we hire a full-time patrolman, they
Yeah.
have to go through the entire vetting and interview process.
Right.
Yes. I'm not, what's the confusion?
Just that we don't vet the photo enforcement officers if there is that they're gonna be at some point, a part-time patrol officer.
Only in emergencies that happens. They don't, yeah, they do not, when they're here to run the camera. They're not here to patrol. And they do get the, they do get the background check done. All of that stuff still gets done. But they're only here to run the camera.
Okay, because in the event that there's like a situation where they have to go out on patrol, they,
That hasn't happened yet.
no?
Yeah.
Okay, 'cause I don't know if there's different guidelines or whatever, or,
Well, they're certified police officers by
Yeah,
state law,
right.
so they are already qualified to do that.
okay,
There's no,
Additional training.
right.
that they need.
But they don't do that for us. What they do for us is run the camera. Obviously, if there's a shooting or something, they will deploy
Yeah.
because, but they have the basic training through the academy and all that stuff to know how to manage that. Does that answer your question? Okay. Council has before them resolution 2612 presented for suspension of rules and adoption. Clerk, you please read the resolution.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with American Fleet Services for fire engine repairs in the village of Newburgh Heights and declaring an emergency.
I have a couple questions. I don't know, Mayor or Chief Higgs, doesn't matter to me who does this. Is this actually a, I hate to say backdating? We already approved the repairs that we're approving now. This is simply for the payment plan, if you will.
Right.
So this does not lock us into a contract agreement with solely any one vendor.
Correct.
Okay, is there a reason, we have talked, Chief, all of us at this dais about slowing things down, not passing anything on emergency. If we should choose to put this on first reading today, would that hinder this in any way? Because we have another meeting in 6 days, 7 days?
Well, he obviously had cut back for the first amount of 18,000, which was approved back in September under the original maintenance agreement to get started on, you know, with all the issues that were going on. So he's expecting either this week or next week to check and start the payment. So
I thought we paid the 18,000,
we haven't made any.
Mary? I thought.
We have not made it written a check because the work was just finished a week ago.
We have not made, no, not had.
We've approved the ability to pay.
Correct.
Okay, again, if we meet, I think it's the 7th,
I think that's correct.
and it goes on second reading that day, we could still pass it. We'll suspend it, blah, blah, blah. Ms. Nagorsi, when would you be cutting the $18,000 debt? If this should pass?
The last week of April.
So it'd be a month.
It's way too late.
I don't understand how that, I'm not following that.
He's expecting a check for $18,000 like tomorrow by the end of March.
I thought you just said April. Mr. Moran, you had stated that the monthly payment was 4,000 something. I think I threw it in my bag there. Is
Just
that,
4,000 something, I can't remember.
$4,898.56.
Almost 5,000, yeah.
okay,
So that would be the next payment, May 1st.
okay, so this, if I'm understanding this correctly, this ordinance has nothing to do with the 18,000, is that correct?
Yeah.
This has to do only with the almost 5,000 monthly payment to pay the 27,000.
18,000.
So this.
No.
So talking with the mayor, I assume the law director looked at it. This was his, after we finished the engine work and everything that was done. He submitted this as a way of paying the bill, okay? Instead of coming and say, hey, you owe us 40, whatever the total amount, I don't have that paperwork in front of me. He
Either for some reason.
didn't bring it with me. I didn't realize I would have, if I had known I was gonna talk about it, I would have brought it with me.
It's fine.
So anyways, $18,000 was.
Here's the deal. Hold on, chief. Here's the deal. We have to pay him $18,000. Okay, that's got to be done.
Okay.
So basically, and he has been gracious enough to say, I'll tell you what, I'll take roughly $5,000 a month for the next 6 months. And that's what this piece of legislation does. It allows us to enter, to pay him the $18,000 now and then $5,000 a month moving forward. Or,
We can pay him $50,000 tomorrow.
correct,
I don't understand the connection between the 18,000 in this legislation. I understand we owe it. That's not what I'm saying. I don't understand how that comes into this.
$18,000 was an estimate, going to get started for them to do the work.
Right, but we've owed that since September.
we
or
didn't,
shortly there.
we didn't owe it because he didn't do the work.
That estimate to get started along with.
Right.
As we went through the repairs, as we troubleshooted, that was to get us started.
That we didn't owe it because the work hadn't been done yet. Now it is done and he's saying, I want it. And he's willing to give us a $5,000 per month payment.
18,000, and it was exceeded by 29,000.
Right.
When all
Yeah.
was said and done.
Right, because there was a lot more wrong with that, right?
That extra $29,000 on top of the 80,000.
Correct.
So.
But payments like together. So this one.
Can I try? Okay. We approved the $18,000. And
We've
then,
actually approved it all.
and then we approved the additional $29,391.37. This ordinance,
Your phone or something.
What are you asking?
Where is that $18,000 in this
It's already
paper?
been done. It's on the last page.
Okay, thank you. Maybe
And
I
in the
missed
whole
it.
letter that.
All right, does it, and it has to be on emergency because they want their money tomorrow.
She's gonna write me a check and they were gonna sign the contract.
Nothing has to be on emergency. Council can say, no, we're not doing it on emergency.
And then what?
And then we don't have payment plans. We're paying him $56,000 next month.
Don't do it tonight, but I gotta meet with the guy tomorrow. Meet with the owner tomorrow.
Steve, Linda, Bill, Jason?
Motion.
Mayor, I move that resolution 26-12 be adopted, rules suspended, and that resolution 26-12 be placed on its first, second, and final reading for immediate passage.
Second.
Please call the roll on suspension of rules.
Mr. Moran,
Yes.
Mr. Dunman.
yes.
Ms. Gersh, Mrs. Grayorah,
Yes.
Mr. Kirkowski,
Yes.
Please call the roll to adopt.
Mr. Moran, Mr. Dunman,
Yes.
Ms. Gersh, Mrs. Grayorah,
Yes.
Mr. Kirkowski.
Yes.
Resolution 26-12 is adopted. Okay. Council has before them ordinance 2026-6, which is presented for suspension of rules and adoption. And I'll share, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna walk through a number of spreadsheets. But the reason this is being presented for suspension of rules and adoption is because in December, the council adopted a temporary appropriations ordinance, which is what we do every December. It allows us to fund the village for the first 3 months of the year. And then in March, what we typically do, we spend the first couple months of the year working up the budget, reviewing the revenue sources, making sure, or doing our best to make sure numbers are where they need to be. And then at the end of March, we typically adopt the annual appropriations ordinance, which by law must be done by the end of March. We have a new member of council, so I am going to walk through the revenue spreadsheet and then the expense spreadsheet. I know for some of you that have been here for a while, this is going to be a little painful, but Jason, at any time that you need me to stop, have a question, and that goes for anybody. You can leave, Chief, I'm sorry. Yep, anytime that's the case, just stop me, ask me a question, turn on your mic, please, so the public who is watching can hear us. If you have a question. So the first spreadsheet we're gonna look at is the one with all the yellow lines, the revenue spreadsheet. I'm gonna reference the numbers along the left-hand line, column rather. So if we, again, that's what I'll reference, and then the account description next to it. You can see the spreadsheet you have has a 23, it's got the last 3 years, the actual statistics or figures from the last 3 years, and then the estimated numbers for 2026. These figures come from a bunch of different sources, and I'll explain where those come from as we go along. I'm going to move relatively quickly through the revenue, and I'm going to focus primarily on the general fund, because that is where we spend most of our money. First line item, 100, 1,000, 4, 11, 100. Very first line item, that's income taxes. The income taxes go to 4 different not income taxes, property taxes. Property taxes, real estate taxes go to 4 different areas. It goes to the general fund, which is the first line in this budget, revenue budget. It goes to the police pension fund, which is a very small number. I think that's fund 231 or 213, something like that. It goes to 282 fund, which is the police fund, and it goes to the 292 fund, which is the fire department fund. That's property taxes. We're going to get about $125,000 in property taxes on the year. Couple rows down, you're going to see village income taxes. That is the income taxes that the residents of Newburgh Heights pay. RETA, essentially. $930,000 goes to the general fund. And then there's a chunk of money, about $500,000, goes to the 301 fund, which is the debt service fund, to pay for the cost of this building and the fire station, service garage, and police department. Then there's something called RETA retainer returns, which is the next line down. It's about $17,000. It's the difference of what we actually overpaid based on a percentage versus the cost of them actually collecting the RETA income taxes. So county and local taxes, about $1.1 million the village brings in. All right, next section down. Yep.
Question, I'm sorry.
Yep.
The RETA taxes, does that include do the RETA taxes include the letters that were sent by RETA for people who have not paid?
Collections, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Next section down is state shared taxes. We get very little in this area. What you will see is something called property tax rollback. That is essentially something the state is phasing out. We get about $12,000 a year from that, about $13,000 a year from that. That's the big number in that block of revenue sources. Yes, microphone, please.
The liquor and beer permits went from 2488 to 1600. What happened there?
So that's an estimate. We don't actually know. The state, it's really, I'm not kidding. The county just sends us money on an annual basis. So we're estimating what we were at the year before, and we're kind of looking if we get the extra $800, it's a benefit. But that does come from, I can tell you, it comes from all the places in the village that sell liquor or beer. So the gas stations, Brown's Tavern, the American Legion. So they all have to pay taxes. We get some of that revenue. Very small amount.
Brick house, whatever it is.
No, that's not Newburgh Heights.
Cleveland.
That's Cleveland.
Wow.
It was $1,000 difference. I just thought that was weird.
Yeah, yeah, it's about $800. Yep. Okay, next section down is basically other charges for services and the transfer station. So the transfer station, which is behind White Dove, where you see Rumpke drive their trucks down, we get a certain percentage of each ton dumped there. We have no control over that dollar amount that is set by the state of Ohio. We did bump it up a little bit this year because Rumpke is now the village's trash hauler. So we're anticipating they will use their own transfer station a little bit more. So it's about 55,000 instead of 50,000, 51,000. Next section, fines and waivers, traffic cameras, and the building department. We're estimating about $7.3 million in traffic camera revenue this year. Now, $1 million of that is collections. We have the court, it has actually started. It started 2 weeks ago. The court has now officially begun issuing what they call declaratory judgments. So people that ignore their traffic cameras, tickets, now have a court ruling against them on the docket that says you are in default, which allows us to go into collections. These will begin to impact those individuals' credit scores. So all the people thought, oh, I can just ignore my traffic camera ticket and you can't do anything to me. This is one step closer to garnishments. So by the end of the year, we will begin issuing garnishments.
Will that affect their like registrations, license renewal and stuff like that? No.
So traffic camera citations in Ohio have nothing to do with your driver's license. They do not impact it in any way, shape, or form. No, it's something for whatever reason that the legislators wrote into the state law that they just, other states actually suspend licenses for this. We do not. So it just depends state by state. So in any event, that's about $1 million in outstanding collections. Now that all the cameras are up and running and operating the way they're supposed to, there is an anticipated monthly average of about $500,000, $525,000 per month in revenue. For the 2, 4, 6 cameras fixed cameras and the camera that we operate in the highway. So we anticipate about that generating about $525,000 per month. That's an average. So some months might be 300,000, some months might be 700,000. Okay. The building department is on track and should generate about $100,000 in fines and permits. And then in fines and waivers, $155,000 is the actual revenue generated by the police officers when they pull somebody over and they stop somebody who doesn't have a driver's license, for example, and that individual ends up at mayor's court, and then he gets a fine or she gets a fine and has to pay mayor's court. That's what that $155,000 in. So that council's aware, this represents a little more than 3/4 of all of the village's revenue. So this is what we operate on. Next section down, you're going to see sweeps, something called sweeps, the very last line. That's interest on how much money is in the bank. Next page, miscellaneous receipts. That is all over the place. That is money from people renting Village Hall, It is, somebody decides to donate money. It's kind of a catch-all. It comes from a lot of different sources. That's about 95,000. As you can see, some years it's on as high as 120, some years it's as low as 79. That's an average. The 95,000 is an average number. Those numbers averaged. And then employee copay is the portion of the insurance that all the employees pay. It's what directly comes out of their check to cover the medical insurance for their family.
2025, nothing.
vehicles. Yes, right. So insurance receipts are, what do you say?
Vehicles.
Yeah.
Vehicle accidents.
If there's a, right, so we're driving down the road and somebody loses control and hits one of our police cars. And they have to pay for that police car. We get a check, that's where it goes. Or that's the insurance company pays to fix something, they give us a check, that's where it goes. That's such a high number because if you recall, we had somebody hit that telephone pole or the light pole on 49th, and then somebody hit the bridge power box. So their insurance company had to pay us a big chunk of money to.
The Harvard sounds like 40 something.
Yeah, 49,000, I think. Yeah. Yep. Well, they hit it twice. So that's where that number comes from. So you see the green line in the middle of the second page. General fund anticipated revenue is about $8.9 million.
That's a big jump from, I think that's a big jump.
Microphone, please.
That's a big jump from 2025. How do you account for the extra 2 point some million?
1 million in collections. And all the cameras are up and running and they're running the way they're supposed to. There were significant periods of time in 2025 where the cameras were not operating how they were supposed to, or the equipment they had wasn't up to snuff.
Does that take into consideration the construction on 77?
The construction on 77 will not occur until the big construction will not occur until 2027. Maybe. And what will happen is when the state reduces the speed limit on 77 to 50, we will reduce the speed limit to 60. So you will start getting tickets at 60 miles an hour in a construction zone. That I don't know. We haven't discussed that. I don't know. But so yes, that is being talked about and accounted for, and I think the chief has already got a plan for that. Yep. I'm gonna buzz through the next kind of sections. The next section you see is the 201 fund and the 202 fund. These sections are residual dollars that we get from people registering the vehicles, people paying taxes on their gasoline, things like that. They're pretty consistent throughout the year. They help fund the service department. The 205 fund, that's the grants fund. We colloquially call it the CDBG fund. This is where all the money that is going to pay for repaving and doing the water lines for Beta, repaving and doing the water lines for Gamma, repaving East 52nd Street, repaving East 26th, redoing Harvard Avenue if we get not complete redo, but repairs on Harvard if we get that grant, repainting Harvard Avenue, which is where we are again already. So that's what goes in this fund. It's kind of a giant grants construction fund that we get money from all kinds of sources. As you can see, it totals about $5.1 million. Questions? Okay. The 210 fund, also another tax for motor vehicles. That money goes into the service department. I think this year we're earmarking those dollars to help cover the cost of road salt. Okay, next page. top of the page, you're gonna see the 213 fund. I mentioned that property taxes go to 4 different funds. This is one of them. We get about 90, almost $10,000 that helps pay for the police department pension that we get. It's not a very big fund, obviously. Scrolling down to the middle of that page, you're gonna see the 281 fund. This is also property taxes. This helps, these dollars go directly to pay for police salaries. That's $280,000. I'm gonna flip to the next page. You're gonna see the 287 and 288 funds. These are funds that come, the state requires a certain dollar amount from each citation written by a police officer to go into what mayor's court fines and legal fees funds. We have no control over that. Really, they generate combined about $10,000 a year, but it's dictated by the state. 292 fund. This is the fire department fund. You're gonna see a big number in the right above the yellow line that says 292, $1.551 million. Does everybody see that? Okay. That is $500,000 in revenue transferred from the general fund to cover the $500,000 deficit from 2025. Then another $1 million is transferred to the fire department fund to fund the fire department for 2026. Any questions about that?
I know it's not a lot of money, but is ambulance billing in this?
Next,
As well?
next sec, I'll get there.
Okay.
Okay, the next section down, the 293 fund is ambulance billing. And it's about $80,000, 79,000 is the estimate. Questions about that? No? Okay. Next section down is the 301 fund. This is the section where we pay for the debt service on the construction of our new village hall. It's this year, it's about $566,000. It's that high this year because we deferred last year's payment into this year.
That's all property taxes too, right?
Income.
This has come from income taxes. This is so the other part, when I talked about where the RETA money goes, half of it, well, 3/4 of it goes to the general fund, the rest of it goes here. And the last page of revenue, for the revenue. No, it'll drop down next year. Yep, it'll drop down to back to about 400 grand next year.
Where are we in that?
So we're fairly close, I think another few years away from paying off the income tax, or not the income, no, there's two, it's actually 2 loans. We're right, the general obligation, thank you. The general obligation bond, we anticipate paying off in the next few years, and then we'll have the income tax bond that will go on for another probably 14, I think years, 13, 14 years. 12?
Unless we manage to
Planning.
refinance.
I mean, I don't know how long it was. It's
What did you say?
13.
24, I thought it was 24.
Unless we manage to refinance.
Right, unless we refinance or pay it off early.
But we're way away.
Yeah. Does that answer the question?
Yep.
Okay. Last page, you're gonna see something called the refuse collection charges. That was a fee that was established, I want to say in 2010 or 2011, to help pay for the cost of trash collection. And when it first started, it was $12 per month per household that had trash collection. We were able to basically get rid of it pretty quickly. I think it represents $1 per month or something like that now per household. And generates about $16,000 per year for trash collection. So grand total estimated 2025 revenue is $17 million. 16,955,000 and some change. So roughly $17 million in revenue. Any questions about that? Okay. Moving on to the budget. I'm gonna kind of go through this the same way. Stop, turn on your mic if you have a question, but stop me and along the way. Okay, same thing. You have your actual expenditures in 23, 24, and 25, and then your estimated budget, our estimated budget for this year. The thing about, and we say budget, the term is really appropriations. That's the ordinance that this document drives the larger number for the appropriations ordinance and allows us to spend on these things. At any time during the year, we have the ability to amend and or change this so that we can meet our legal obligations. Okay. Police chief salary, it includes his stipend. Next line is the ranked officers. This is your lieutenant and your 3 sergeants. That represents about $304,000. The next line down is $189,920. But as you can see in the notes on the right, it's really much more than that, by the tune of $280,000 that are paid for out of the general to 281 fund, which is the property tax fund. So $189,000 for the regular patrolmen are going to come out of this general fund. $280,000 are going to come out of the 281 fund. What this does is allows us to have 2 officers on duty at all times. That does not include the chief or the lieutenant's time. And what you will see, and I want to be very clear about this, there are going to be days and times when you see 3 officers on duty because they move and they match, and there's some grant money that they get and we get throughout the year that allows us to have extra patrols and extra duty. Does that make sense? So there are going to be times you're going to see more than 2 officers working at a time. We've actually already been working 2 officers most of the time. All right. The administrative assistant is in there. You're going to see the court, the bailiffs, and our 1 part-timer, Rob Vaverka. He's a part-time patrolman. He's the last one we have. He essentially only works on Sundays. I think we have 6. Yeah. They don't all work at the same time, but yes. Yep.
Isn't Mr. Officer Ate also a?
He is on, he's a commissioned officer. He's on staff, but he doesn't get paid unless he works. And when he does work, he works because he's a certified range instructor.
Okay.
That's what we have, and that's why we keep him on for.
Okay.
Yep. And then you're going to see police department overtime. That is when the officers, our regular patrolmen, come in extra duty and run the camera on the highway, as well as overtime for like DUI patrols and things like that. And special duty is essentially the same thing. Any questions about salaries, wages? Okay. Next section down are the fringe benefits, Medicare, hospitalization, police and fire pension fund. Any questions about those? Those are a formula. So based on the number of dollars made in the section above that, you're going to have this much money spent on these benefits. Questions? Okay. And then you're going to see uniforms. So what we call personal services, which is essentially the wage and fringe expenses of the police department in the general fund, $1.22 million. And then don't forget, you're going to have $280,000 spent in the 281 fund for personal services as well. Next section down is now we start the cost of running the police department that are not personnel costs. You're going to have about $180,000 for dispatch, the service they need in their cruiser to run a license plate, cleaning services, just general operations and contractual services costs. When I went through line by line, expenditure by expenditure, we feel like we're able to get this number down a little bit from the 198,000 we spent last year. We think we can get it down to about 180. Again, that's an estimate right now. It could be 184,000, it could be 176,000, but it's somewhere in there and we feel pretty good about it. Next section down is the payment we have to make to the state of Ohio for leads, so they can run people's background and things like that in the cruiser.
Why the big jump?
$2,000.
Yeah.
It's $1,800 per quarter. So we didn't pay last year. We have to pay it this year for the fourth quarter.
Okay.
Thank you, Kathleen. Camera enforcement fees, membership dues, 16,500. This is basically your SWAT team. Next section down, camera enforcement fees. Yeah. If we have a hostage situation or we're a member of something called SEB, the Southeast Enforcement Bureau. They have a SWAT team, and that's one part of what this $16,000 buys for us. If there's an emergency and we need that team to come here, and we actually had them here. Yeah. 44th. Yep. Yeah. It allows us to have access to that kind of enforcement.
You like pay $16,000 to.
Yep.
Membership fee.
It's a membership every year. All the communities that make up the Southeast Enforcement Bureau pay into that fund. And that's what covers the cost of that. We were not members, correct? Yep. All right, good. We're comfortable with that? Okay. The next line item is the big one, camera enforcement fees. Obviously, so you know, this is the cost of paying the Garfield Heights Municipal Court as well as the camera company themselves, because they get $25 a ticket, $27.50 per ticket. So that's $2.15 million. This is going to sound crazy, but we want that number to be $3 million. Because if it is, that means there's a tremendous number of people paying their citations like they're supposed to. Okay, next page. Oh, animal control is on here as well, as you can see toward the bottom. You had another question?
Verizon.
That is all of the department's cell phones.
It's
Yep.
for all the modems in the cruisers
Yep,
and the.
I'm
Chiefs-
sorry.
And the chief's phone.
correct. Next page, which is the second page, training and seminars, and range usage. Pretty standard numbers, $6,000, $500. And then prisoner housing, last year, that number went up to $50,000. This year, we budgeted 28,000, which is more than we budgeted in 24 and 23. So we're trying to get somewhere in the middle. Here's the deal. Somebody gets arrested, we got to take them to jail. We don't really have much control over that. So that number could be $50,000 again. Next section down are supplies and materials, fuel. I didn't realize fuel was going to be $5 a gallon at some point this summer, but it might be. This includes fuel, car parts, the cost of each car, things like that. Tires, exactly. So, you know, the numbers are pretty consistent. We try to keep them consistent with what we've done in the past. You'll see big drops on two of the vehicles. Both of them were about $18,200 last year. That's because they were new and they were being outfitted. We don't have that this year.
We tell them that every year.
Yeah, seriously. And there is no capital outlay in the police department. There is no intent, at least as of right now, to buy any new vehicles. We need some, but with the plan for the budget this year, it's not in the budget. Police department, total budget, general fund, $3.7 million. So, for those folks that want to know at home, when people want to know where our traffic camera money goes to, it goes to our police department and our fire department. Over half of our general fund revenue goes to the police department. Next page, you're gonna see fire department transfer account. This is the $1.5 million transferred to the general fund I explained when I was walking through the revenue. Then you're gonna see utilities. These are streetlights, about $60,000 a year. Traffic signal repairs, last year was 52,000. That's because of the repair of the traffic light on 49th. Normally it's about anywhere between 8 and 10,000. County health payment, 14,900. We don't get to decide what that is. They tell us that's what it is. All right, next section, salaries and wages. This is the recreation department. Right now, I've booked what we paid last year. Mr. Edelberg, that would be if he worked the full year. As you know, he's retiring. So this is basically just planning on what that number looks like as of right now. So Mr. Edelberg made about 8,400 last year. And then the next section down is fringe like pension and Medicare. Okay. Last section below the green personal services line, contractual services, $2,000. That's umpires, things like that. Dog park lighting, referees and umpires, $500. Michelle, answer your question to where the two pots of money are for what Rec and Seniors developed for a budget. This is where part of that money is. So it's partially here, partially under the council section. All right. So 3,200 for Easter, Memorial Day, Halloween, children's Christmas party, things like that. So contractual services for the recreation department's about $6,500. Next page. Supplies and materials, $500. This is the garage sale stuff, event items, mailers or flyers, things like that. Uniforms, $1,250, and then athletic equipment as needed, new balls, potentially new bats, whatever it might be, soccer balls, nets, all of that stuff, $200 would go there. So the total recreation budget is about $18,000. Any questions? Okay. You're going to see refuse collection, about $225,000 in here. That includes, was it December?
What's that?
The 225. Is it 2 months we had, right?
6.
Is it 6 months? Okay. I stand corrected. 225 is what we budgeted thus far. And then again, 16,000 is paid for out of the 506 fund. So it's in addition. Okay. Next section down. This is the service department. You can see the service director's salary and then the full-time wages of the 4 laborers. 60,000 of that will come out of this budget. 100,000 of it will come out of the 201 fund, which is what we talked about when I was going through the revenue. That's money that comes in from gas taxes and things like that. Next section down is the mechanic's salary. And then you've got overtime, which is, for snow plowing, things like that. Then you've got their benefits, just like Medicare, hospitalization, pension, anything else. Questions about that? This allows us to have a mechanic, 4 laborers, and the department head. So this will be the second year, knock on wood, second year in a row, we've had a staffed service department, and we can start really taken some catch up. All right, flip the page, you're gonna see contractual services. You see a significant drop. That's because there are some expenditures that we won't be making. How's that? Supplies and materials, last year we spent about 7,000, we're gonna try and keep it at that number. And then you've got fuel purchases, truck and vehicle repairs, all of those same things that you have and you're gonna have with every department. You have with the police department, you have with the fire department, and we're gonna have here with the service department.
Cell phones go up. Yeah. Like, look at that, but why? Same thing, yeah.
Because you have a service director now getting a phone stipend for 12 months. 12 months,
He now gets a stipend.
$75 a month.
yes. Plus the mechanics.
So you now have two service.
$50 a month. Because he's a department head?
Yes.
Yes, correct. Any other questions? Good, okay. Overall, general fund cost of the service department is about $363,000. When you add in what comes out of the 201 fund, the 202 fund, and the 210 fund, it's over $500,000. All added, the total cost of the service department. All right, you're gonna see a bunch of, the next page is gonna be blank, you're gonna flip through that. And then at the top of the page, you're gonna get to the mayor's budget. This 107,701,511,00. So you've got the mayor's salary, you've got the salaries of the prosecutors for Garfield Court, as well as the housing court prosecutor. You have the clerk of court's salary, and then you have the magistrate's salary. In addition, you have the village's law director salary. Grand total is about $235,000 in salaries for all of those attorneys and personnel. All right, any questions about that?
I thought the clerk of courts was under the police department.
From a perspective of management, that's true. From a line item of cost, it's in the mayor's. Okay, and then you've got Medicare, hospitalization, pension, all those things, but those are set figures. Contractual services, you get down into, you've got 77,000, you've got copier, IT services, EAP, the village's lobbyist, all comes out of that line item. The next line item down is the solicitor's legal services. So the solicitor receives a contract for being the village's prosecutor, as well as providing law director services for the village. I will tell you, it's going to come in a little less than this number. However, we're being cautious given last year's number was 92,000. Scrolling down, you're going to get to engineering services. This is the monthly payment, inspections, things like that for for Jim Sickles and his team. Membership dues, cell phones. Is there a question about the cell phones?
No, I want to go back to did you skip over sticky dust study? What is that?
That's what you're working on.
Oh,
I
didn't know there was a cost to us.
There isn't yet, but
Oh,
if there becomes a cost to us, that's where it'll go.
Got it.
So the one good thing is the spring newsletter, the $4,000 in here. We've pretty much made the decision that we're doing a spring newsletter. It will be digital. We're not going to spend them $4,000 printing it. We may print some copies, but we'll put it on the Facebook page. we'll put it on, the website. And if people want it, we can email it to them. And then what we theoretically, we can make some, you know, copy machine copies here, but the idea is to try and save A, the paper, but B, the cost. All right. And then the next section down, you're gonna see a big number, $123,500. This is a Garfield Heights court apportionment fee. We entered into an agreement with the court several years back. Because of COVID, the cost of the court skyrocketed, and because our number of cases, because of the cameras, blew up, we had a higher overall percentage of how much it cost to run the court. That number is determined by dividing all of the municipalities that pay into our court, and there's 8 of them, the Garfield Heights Municipal Court, there's 8 municipalities. It's based on the number of cases from each court. We issue and have the most cases going into that court. So we have a $123,000 fee required by state law to make. This will clear our balance due to the court this year. Yeah. There, by the way, we were supposed to pay it last year and they graciously allowed us to defer it to this year. Okay, next section down, mayor's expense account and office supplies for all of those people and individuals, falls here. Any questions? I didn't, but it is $5,000 every single year. That's what we put in the budget. As you can see, last year I only spent $1,442. In 2024, I only spent $1,600, but $5,000 is what by ordinance is in that fund.
Who do you think?
All right. Well, she was never here. Okay, so the mayor's department, mayor's court, all of those costs, expenses, grand total $709,000. Next section is council. This is your salaries are established and set by ordinance. And then you have the Medicare, PRS, life insurance that for those of you that take it, that total, it comes to about $43,042,787. Next section down is codification, which is in shred day.
I had a question about codification. Is it a law that we have to have hard copies of those, or can we get them digitally? And if so, Kathleen, Ms. Nagorski, sorry, how much would that save us?
I have no idea about the legal side of it.
It is not legal. You do not have to have a hard copy. It's pretty minimal. I mean, you might couple $100.
I think the codification service is what we're paying for.
Correct.
The pages is minimal.
Okay.
Good question. Seminars and training. And then the next section down, you'll see supplies and materials and office supplies. The notation there is an inaccurate notation. This is where that other chunk of money that council allotted for expenditures comes in. Okay, next page. This is the finance department, 107,704. It's the finance director's salary and the payroll clerk's salary. And then the next section below that are the wages and benefits, pension, Medicare, hospitalization. Questions? Okay. So the next section below that are copier and lease payment, basic administration fees, things like that. It's about $12,750. You're going to see something called the Rita retainer expense, $39,000. Every month when Rita gives us a payment, they withhold 3%. Or is it 2.5? Yeah, it's either 2.5 or 3% Rita withholds. That's to cover their expenditures and costs of collection. We do get some of that back usually the following year. And then you're gonna see the next big number you'll see is eGov software and maintenance, $26,000. That's the cost of our accounting software. Next section below that, supplies and materials, about 2,000 in supplies and materials, and then roughly about $3,000 in office supplies. Any questions? All right. Total budget for the clerk treasurer or fiscal officers department is about $250,000. Next section, this is land and buildings. It catches a lot of different things, but the building department, from the salaries perspective, the building department falls here. So the building commissioner's salary, the housing inspector's salary, the admin salary are all built into this section. And then, of course, below that, right below that is their wages. So that totals about $260,000.
Does that count our inspectors as well, the Bill Gallagher's of them?
No, those are under contractual services below that. The next section is contractual services. And that covers the CBO, the electrical inspector, the plumbing inspector, things like that. You're gonna see CIC operations is a line item. There's about a $45,000 fee for property taxes. The CIC owns a bunch of property, which we are actively working to try and get marketed and off our books. But because it's not a tax exempt entity, there is a property tax fee. Electric services is about 19,000. We're a member of something called the First Suburbs Consortium. That membership there is 3,000. That has come to be a very valuable entity. The building department learns a lot and picks up a lot of cooperation and coordination from the First Suburbs entity. Telephone, gas service. This is the cost of operating the, right,
What?
and then, right. And then, telephone system is about 40 grand a year. That's not cell phones. That's all the technology that goes into this building for, telephones and internet and all that good stuff. Water and service, water and sewer, that's the cost of water and sewer for this building. And then seminars and training is about 3,500. They may not spend that. It just depends on how much, if anybody's got to get recertified or whatnot, that's what that money gets used for. Next section down, you'll see about 15,000 for office supplies. Couple years ago, we spent 21,000. Last year, we spent 13,000. So it's kind of a happy medium. And then office supplies is about $3,500. Below that, you'll see capital outlay. That's the 55,000 for the house that we have already agreed to buy. Next page. Last year, we spent $35,000 on the home maintenance grant. That's the grant where if you spend 1,000 on your house, the village will give you 1,000. We're budgeting about $30,000 for that grant program again this year. And then below that, you're going to see $1.161 million. This is money that gets transferred from the general fund to the 301 fund to pay for the cost of this building and the fire station building, as well as the road projects in our share of money that was not collected by grants. So that's our cost. That's what this fund makes up. We anticipate this dropping down back down to about $100,000 next year. But those two projects, the 20s and the 26 projects, are essentially done, and the bill has come due. We have to make that payment this year. Questions about any of that? All right, now the next section down, this is county auditor fees, water department collection fees, the state auditor's fees, and workers' compensation costs. That totals about $92,000 a year. All right, So you're gonna see a peach line that says general fund revenue. $8.9 million is anticipated revenue. General fund, you'll see it say total 100, general fund, it's yellow. It's anticipated that that number is about $808.8 million, $8.783 million in expenses from the general fund, leaving us at about $120,000 surplus.
Wait, the each fund, the general fund revenue, that's what we have in the general fund. Correct?
That's what we're expecting to collect.
The first peach line is what we plan. Then you have the yellow line, that's what we've budgeted to spend. And then the peach line right below that is about a surplus of about 120,000. All right. In a normal year, that number would be more, but we are again playing catch up still.
Money that.
Yes. Yes. Yep. All right, any questions about the general fund? That's where the 90% of the village's expenditures and work comes from. All right. Moving very quickly, 201 fund, this is the $100,000 that covers part of the cost of, it's right below the general fund. This is part of the cost of the service department. Next page. Nothing on the next page is, there are no expenditures. Next page. You'll see at the top, it says 7,500 in the 202 fund, $7,500 for rock salt. That's again, that's only half the cost of rock salt, but comes from state taxes on gas or licenses or something. Yeah, they keep it in the bar. Yeah, they cover it, but it's okay. Next section is the 205 fund, which is the capital outlay building fund. This is $5.1 million. This is the 20s, 26th, East 52nd, Gamma, Beta, and Harvard. All of that stuff, when I was going through the revenue, the expenditure side of that will be in this fund. Questions? All right, then the next section right below that, you're gonna see another $7,500. That's the other half of the cost of rock salt. That's the 210 fund. Questions on any of that? Next page. 213 fund. This is the police pension fund. A small portion of our property taxes, a very small portion of our property taxes funds this, what used to be enough 20 years ago, 15 years ago, to cover some pension costs. Not even close anymore.
Like $15,000 a month now.
Right. So it doesn't even cover a full month's expense. 231 fund. You're gonna see, this is the larger grant the village has for home maintenance. This is the last of the COVID money. There's $40,000 left in this. So people get a $5,000 grant, they put 1,000 in, and the village puts 1,000 in. So these are $7,000 grants. That's the last of that money. And then below that, you'll see $280,000. That is property taxes to help pay for the cost of police department. Next page, there's nothing on the next page. The 287, and then the next page is the 287 fund. That's a court fee cost. It's $3,000, I'm sorry, $3,500. That's paid for by the court charges. We don't really pay for anything. Okay, and then you're gonna see the next page, the 292 fund. That's the fire department. All right, any questions? I'm gonna go through that any questions before the fire department? All right, this allows us to have this budget covers the cost of a chief, 3 firefighters on duty, 2 for now, because that's all we have. But once we get everybody up and trained, we'll get back to 3 firefighters actually working at a time. And then it does have, the lieutenant's salary in here. Obviously not the whole thing because he's not here the whole year. And then the assistant chief's salary. For those of you who don't know, if you don't know, obviously the lieutenant has retired. Questions about that?
We're not funding any fire department overtime starting tomorrow?
Well, we are, because we don't have enough right now to cover the guys, but the plan is to, and that's built into the base salaries. So we just don't have enough guys right now to cover all the shifts. We're running with 2 guys right now on duty, plus the lieutenant, or not lieutenant, plus the chief and the assistant chief. Next section down is the same thing. It's Medicare, hospitalization, pension, that kind of thing. Go ahead.
Does this cover the possibility of sign-on bonuses as well?
Yes. Now, I'm going to be very clear about this. It inevitably happens every year in every department. Our numbers are not spot on. They're not, there's a lot of factors, people quitting, people coming, people working overtime. These will fluctuate and we will making adjustments as the year goes on in these categories. Questions about that? Nope. But every year we do it. All right, next page. This is the contractual services for the fire department. Includes things like the electricity on their building, membership dues, just like the police department has their SWAT team. The fire department has a
Hazmat, isn't it?
it's hazmat, correct. Then you've got cell phones and communications, all of those things, dispatch, all of that stuff. The water and sewer for their department. That's the contractual services. Next section down, supplies and materials. We budgeted 20,000. Protective clothing, that is turnout gear.
Question,
Yeah,
was the chief's, SUV went from 1,000 to almost 5,000?
because he finally gave me the estimate on the repair. On what the cost was gonna be.
Some of that,
Worth, maybe looking to buy a good second hand?
We've talked about it, it's not.
are some of these repairs being done in-house?
They're
Yes.
all being done.
Yep,
now.
they are being done in-house. Here's the thing, thank you. To get a vehicle, we could go buy a vehicle for 20,000, 16, 18, 20,
10, 15.
correct. So, I mean, in theory, we are at some point going to have to begin probably transitioning, but this is not the year to do that. And as you can see, there's, $500 for the other equipment, 48,000 includes the what we already approved earlier in this meeting. And then the $68,000 is, the patient load system. We got the grant last year. We have to pay the rest. We have to actually pay the bill this year. All right, next page. Again, 293 fund. This is also fire department. This is ambulance billing fund. So we're gonna get about $72,000, $73,000 from that. Over 79,000, excuse me, from that. 72,000 of that will go to dispatching, and then 6,500 will go to the ambulance billing company, who helps collect that money for us. Questions? Okay, next section down, the 301 fund, that's the financing cost of this building, the police station, the fire station, and the service garage. That's the principal and interest on that project. Flipping over to the bottom of the next this is $75,000 for expenditures in this building, as well as repairs. There's some stuff that needs to get fixed on the outside, the awnings, things like that. This money is, we established a rainy day fund for this. I think there's about $110,000 in this budget right now. We will not likely spend the 75,000. However, it's there and appropriated.
Is the plan still to move part of the building department there as well?
Yes, it is.
Are they still moving forward with their digitizing of the records? I think we approved that.
Yes, we are working on that slowly but surely. That's the plan.
Okay.
Okay, and then the last page is the $16,000 for trash collection. That comes out of that special fund. Grand total about $16.3 million. That's what we just talked about. Any questions? So ordinance 2026-6 takes all that stuff that we just approved and turns it into a legislative form, or just not approved, but just talked about, and turns it into a legislative format for the auditor's office.
I had a question to something I don't think I saw on there unless it's lumped in with something else. Tree work in the village, is that in the service department or?
I don't know that well, first of all, yes, tree work is lumped in under contractual services in the service department, but it is not a big number.
Okay. Did we do everything at Kathy Edwards? That needed to be done?
I guess.
There was a bunch of tree work at Kathy Edwards that needed to be done.
That was done last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the pavilion repairs.
That's in the budget for this year. There is some, the seam at the top of the pavilion is coming. Yeah, I think there's $1,500 or something, $4,000 actually, I think it is. But yes, that is in here.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Council has before them ordinance 2026-6 presented for suspension of rules and adoption. Clerk, will you please read the ordinance?
An ordinance to make appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the Village of Newburgh Heights through December 31st, 2026, and declaring an emergency.
Mayor, I move that ordinance 2026-06 be adopted, rules suspended, and that 2026-06 be placed on its first, second, and final reading for immediate passage.
Second.
Clerk, will you please call the roll for suspension of rules?
Mr. Moran?
Yes.
Mr. Dunman?
Yes.
Ms. Gersh? Yes. Mrs. Grayorah?
Yes.
Mr. Kirkowski?
Yes.
Please call the roll to adopt.
Mr. Moran?
Yes.
Mr. Dunman?
Yes.
Ms. Gersh?
Yes.
Mrs. Grayorah?
Yes.
Mr. Kirkowski?
Yes.
Ordinance 2026-6 is adopted. I have a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Moved and second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Meeting adjourned at 7:42.
That went pretty quick.
If we didn't budget until June. I want more heat till June. My nose is running. That's how cold I am.
Stop us on the fan on here.
Um,
Shit, wouldn't take no money for that.
Hey. Lynn,
Oh, I got a good deal on this. About like 10 of them.
had wanted to have a standards
Send it to
meeting.
policies meeting.
Mr. Dunman mentioned possibly having a committee of the whole. The mayor suggested just making it always on the alternate Tuesday,
Right.
either the third or the fifth. I know we can't really vote on that, but that is what is out there. Think about it.
Thanks for sharing.
That's your need.
Always.
But I see you rubbing when you next to me, I'm like, Jesus.
Right to here is where all those nerves are.
Well, there, are they connected?
They go a millimeter a day.
Oh, God.
That's it. It said it'll be 6 months before they're all connected. So that's the way I get that sharp pain.
It sounds like we have money, doesn't it?
What?
When you look at it, it's like, kind of have some money.
Faster it comes in, the faster it goes out. I remember one year. we
Spends an
were
awful lot of money on cell phones, I know that.